For millions of years, the waters of Central and Eastern Europe have emptied into the Black Sea. From mountain streams and sluggish plains, they combine to form a great river known as the Danube. People fought on, fought over, and fought against it. It has been trapped, tapped, and channeled, but never completely tamed. My name is Nick Thorpe. For more than half my life, I've lived beside the Danube in Budapest. As the country of my birth, Great Britain cuts loose from a Europe bruised by Brexit and cut by the coronavirus, I'm staying put. But I'm not staying still. I'm travelling against the flow. This is my journey up the Danube in search of the lost heart of Europe. The joy of going upriver against the flow is that you always feel like an explorer in search of the hidden source. So as the Danube flows north, here in the Dobruja region of Romania, I travel south, discovering this strange land trapped between the river and the Black Sea. Constantly whipped by the wind, short of rain, short of trees, it's not an easy place to live. I want to find out why people stayed here, why they settled, and how they survive. How the wind and the weather shape their culture and their character. Most of all, I'm interested in the choices they make, how they remain free, and how they retain their dignity and their identity. Each man and woman, I realized, is a castle. Just south of the Danube Delta stands the fortress of Enisala. Once Genoese merchants used it to control shipping out on the Black Sea. But times change. The fortress lost its importance as the bay here silted up and even lost its connection with the Black Sea. So now this has become an inland lake. The Russians, in their war against the Turks, ordered all remaining fortresses to be knocked down, but they left this one alone because it was already a ruin then. Ironically, that means that it's the last remaining medieval fortress in this part of eastern Romania. I cross the Danube by ferry again and again. This river is like a compass, guiding me always westwards. Somewhere here, concealed by the folds of this land, is a place which was kept carefully hidden by the communist regime in Romania. Europe's last leper colony at Tihilesht. They couldn't bear to admit that there was an illness even they could not cure. But it can be kept at bay. Vasile's parents, both lepers, met and fell in love here. His father taught him to prune vines, though he had no feeling in his fingers. That makes it a dangerous business.
Eram în vacanța de primăvară când se tăia via. Mi-a dat farfica în mână și ea stătea lângă mine și îmi spunea: o tot tai pe aia, faci pe aia, dregi aia, acolo lasă așa, acolo faci așa, acolo socești așa. Păi, da, vorbesc, mai sunt puncte care nu ai simți în organism. De exemplu, uitați, uite, la mână, nu am avut simți când am băgat lemne pe foc, pe exterior, pe interior am simți, dar pe exterior nu am avut simți și m-am fript la sobă. Poftiți. Sunt puncte. Nu-i de corpul total de sus și până în jos. Cățeaua mea.
Acum e.
Lisa. Gata, păica? Gata? Gata, gata.
She's a good dog.
Leprosy affects each person in different ways. To put it crudely, different parts of your body stop functioning or fall off. But the heart stays in place. Since freedom returned to Romania, they could leave if they like, but they chose to stay with one another. This community was once 200 strong. Now it's down to the last 9. Each resident of the colony has carved out their own nook or cranny. I'm on my way to visit Eufemia. She can't make it down these steep steps anymore. But in the grey afternoon, she's like a brightly coloured bird. Neither the unexpected arrival of strangers nor the invasion of technology ruffle her feathers.
În baie. Într-o baie, dupilare. Pacea Domnului!
Pacea Domnului! Ce face sora Ima?
Te rog frumos să nu mai suni, nu mai suni că am din străinătate cu filmul la mine plină casa. Te rog frumos.
Bine, bine.
Așa, mă suni pe urma, pe la 5-6 acolo, dacă se afli, dacă... Asta nu mă cunoaște. Am luat un număr la cineva și vreo 3 ani de când mă sună fiecare zi, am Biblia, Biblia am acolo, am și semnul, că acum nu văd.
Proverbs 15, verse 15. Toate zilele celui nenorocit sunt rele, dar cel cu inimă mulțumită, mai bine puțin cu frică de Domnul, decât o mare bogăție cu tulburare.
Știe Domnul.
Sanitate! La revedere!
Next stop, the Lepers Clubhouse. Vasile's homemade wine has fueled many conversations here, but today I've been challenged to a more sober contest. England versus Romania.
Looks like we're playing for money, so I'm putting in some as well here. Okay. I'm black or white? So I'm white. Very good. Okay. You finished? Okay, the money is yours. Good.
Nu pot să aduc eu euro aici așa și luam euro. Dacă aș câștiga eu toți banii ăștia, aș lua o englezoaică.
Why an English woman, not a beautiful Romanian woman?
Româncii sunt cele mai frumoase. Pentru că, mai ales partea asta altă, a Moldovei, oltencele, așa, sunt, zici că sunt făcute la inel, dar ele cred că face școală pentru așa ceva, să iasă frumoase, se pictează, se ciucresc, se taie, până când sunt normale, adică naturale. Și sunt mai bocci, așa, nu pot să spun. Așa că englezoaicele voastre sunt foarte...
Humbled by such meditations on beauty in the lepers' colony, I didn't have to travel far to discover more proof of Romania's wealth.
That's really warm and very creamy, straight from the goat. I don't think I've certainly never tasted milk this fresh before, but it's actually delicious. Yeah, if this was a cappuccino, one wouldn't need any coffee in it.
Nature had another big surprise in store for the next leg of my journey. Also white, but not quite so tasty. The snow suddenly arrived, and conditions began to resemble the bitter cold winters of the early 1950s, when political prisoners dug this canal with their bare hands. In memory of the martyrs reads the inscription on the monument at Poarta Alba. When the communists seized power in Romania in 1948, political prisoners, class enemies of the dictatorship of the proletariat, were sent here to be exterminated. This was the Romanian Gulag. The prisoners lived and died in 10 camps, digging what was supposed to be a shortcut from the Danube to the Black Sea. Today, this monument, like their sacrifice, seems almost forgotten. While the newsreels spoke of the building of state socialism, they didn't show the reality. Underfed, overworked men and women sacrificed on the altar of industrial Romania. But one witness, at least, always survives to tell the tale.
Era o iarnă grozavă. În 50-51 până în 52 aveam troiene până la nivelul gardului. Eu, părerea mea atunci de copil, am zis că vroia să facă canalul. Da, îi căra cu căruța morți, neștiind că Dunărea era foarte adâncă, mulți dintre ei au murit în Dunăre, când vroiau să evadeze. Copilăria mea a fost aproape zilnic în Columbia, că tatăl meu era căruțaș și intram cu el, ducea pâinea la deținuții din Columbia. Pâinea care era zilnică și alimente pentru bucătărie. Cea mai urâtă imagine este că ne ducea de la școală să dăm spectacol la deținuții din Columbia. Când noi cântam pe scenă, în sală deținuții plângeau. Și mă întrebam, dacă cânt eu, de ce plâng ei?
The first attempt to complete the 65-kilometre canal from Cernavodă to the Black Sea was abandoned in 1953, then restarted in the early 1970s by Nicolae Ceausescu, Romania's second post-war dictator. In 1984, the canal, which cost so much human suffering, was finally completed.
Eu de multe ori zic că în canalul ăsta e numai sânge ale deținuților și lacrimile familiilor lor.
Ceausescu and his wife Elena ruled Romania for 24 years. With the feared secret police, the Securitate, they imposed an iron grip on society. As a reporter in this region, I visited Romania several times, but when I applied for an interview with Ceausescu in 1988, I was told that the president is not in the habit of giving interviews in the prison cell at the airport, which is as far as I will get if I ever try to enter Romania again. But here I am, free as a bird. His megalomania, the personality cult he built, and the cruelty of his rule, when almost all food produced in Romania was exported, and the population literally starved to death in their bedrooms, did not endear him to his people. Whenever he could, he travelled abroad. One Romanian joke from that period spoke of the 3 T's: Lenin, the great titan, Stalin, the great tyrant, and Ceausescu, the great tourist. He was also a hunter, with a taste for the good life, especially when it came to wine.
Marius, there's a certain irony, isn't there, in your own personal history that you escaped from the Ceausescu dictatorship in the 1980s. You came back here to Romania, to your home country in the 1990s, and you ended up in the 2000s, and later 2010s, buying a vineyard with helicopter pad where the man you escaped from, who you fled from, Nicolae Ceausescu, this was one of his favorite vineyards, wasn't it?
He liked it here. We have a cellar here where he used to come, and a small room at the entrance in the cellar where he used to stay, because it was not always that he liked luxury, and sometimes he liked...
He was a simple guy. He was a peasant, really, from a village.
Yes, yes. He had his good parts and his bad parts, okay?
A lot of bad parts.
No, the bad parts, unfortunately,
were very
much bigger.
and enough to force you to leave your own country and risk your life to escape from his Romania.
Well, but I'm the winner in the end. I'm sure that nobody wants to leave the places where they were born or where their life was, unless there is something very dramatic happening. And of course, this is the danger of losing life or maybe freedom. Like in my case, the communists didn't like my free speech, let's say, and they always threatening me to, and I decided to leave.
And you were 27 years old at the time?
28, actually, yes.
As I remember, you got on the boat in Constanța, you sailed to Bosphorus, so you're hidden near the funnel of a ship, and then the ship arrived in Istanbul on the Bosphorus. What happened then?
It was night, 11:30 at night, and I was quite scared because it was about 20 meters high, the deck. And yeah, the water looked scary and very turbulent. All of a sudden, somebody turned on a light in my face, but I saw them moving towards me, and I had to make a decision, so I decided to jump. I said I better die than they catch me, because then it means I'm very stupid to have done so many things and then be caught at the end. But finally I managed to arrive on the shore, and I laid down and started laughing, relieved and also shivering, because I was very cold and very tired, but happy.
One reason why Ceausescu may have liked the wines of Niculitzel was that it resembled his own name, Nicolae, and that of his son, Nicu, which also happens to be my name. The vines still grow in the valley of the Danube, even on these north-facing slopes opposite Ukraine. The Danube creates its own microclimate.
The Danube acts as a temperature regulator and humidity source. In the morning, in the summer, it's quite moist, and this is...
So it never dries out here?
Well, it dries after the first hours of the morning. That humidity disappears. But this is important because it's a dry area in general with low levels of rain during the year. And this humidity somehow helps maintaining a healthy wine.
Marius returned to Romania in the 1990s after the bloody revolution which toppled the Ceausescus in December 1989. The Ceausescu couple tried to flee by helicopter from the roof of the Communist Party building, but they were caught, then executed on Christmas Day. 18 years later, Romania joined the European Union. South from the Danube Delta lies Babadag, separated from the sea by a lake. It's home to a large Roma or Gypsy community, part Muslim but increasingly evangelical Christian, balancing precariously on the periphery of both communist and capitalist Romania. This is Alina. Despite her youth, she's played a central role in winning EU funds to help the poor in this town, especially the children, with extra classes after school to stop them dropping out.
Majoritatea copiilor romi rămân acasă, părinților pleacă în străinătate. Sunt cazuri foarte triste, să spunem așa, în care un copil de 10-11 ani se ocupă de frații lui mai mici.
Moș Crăciun cu pete darbe a sosit din Limaneț și ne-aduce daruri multe la fetițe și băieți.
And what about fish? Do you like eating fish? And how do you like to eat fish? Do you like it in a soup or do you like it fried fish?
Fried.
Fried, fragit, yeah, okay. Could I ask around the class, whose parents are abroad now?
Cei care au părinții plecați. Cei care au părinții plecați.
Părinții, doar părinți.
Dacă aveți acum părinții plecați, vă duți sus.
Așa. His father is in Switzerland.
In Sweden or in Switzerland? Sweden, in Stockholm. Oh, okay, fine.
Sometimes the poorest people on this planet, the barefoot people, laugh more than those with all the money they need. If you look closely at the walls, you might recognize Father Christmas. A life full of extremes of happiness and sadness. In their Europe, the richer countries of the West provide a precious lifeline, without which they might drown.
It's very clean and very warm, but it's also very small. I mean, where do you all sleep?
Da, copiii dorm în pas și noi cu ăștia doi mici fără noi nu dormim și dormim jos.
What about work? Is there work here or do you travel abroad to work?
Mă duc în Portugalia. Stau o lună, două acolo, mă întorc iar stau. Se face niște piețe acolo, știi, la târguri din astea, știi? Și am oameni care mă cunoaște ani de zile acolo și descarc în car, știi? Le descarc ei, fac mesele astea, 10 euro, seară și dimineața. Îmi convine mai bine Europa, adică în Portugalia. Sunt mai considerat acolo față aici, în România. Nu le-am lăsat singur, nu le-am lăsat fără bani. Unde am fost, le trimiteam că e 100, că 200 de euro, că 50 de euro, că ce făceam, trimiteam acasă să aibă de mâncare acasă, știi?
Until recently, girls in this Roma community were married off by their parents as young as 12 or 13. The aim was to protect them from other men. Now that is forbidden, their fathers take them out of school, afraid what may happen if they are left unattended.
Nu e vorba de... Nu că nu vreau eu să le las. Dar tradiția noastră, știi care e problema? Dacă gata, a văzut fata la 15-16 ani deja, o agață după drum. Deci chiar și poliția nu face dreptate, știi de ce? Așa e tradiția la voi. Când te duci să declari că mi-a furat fata și nu știu ce, voi vă împăcați între voi, du-te la el și împăcați-vă.
I've visited so many Roma communities in Eastern Europe in the past 30 years, seen so much work to help them help themselves, so much compassion and contempt. But so many initiatives run into the dust. They're great survivors on the fringes of the modern world, but always on the fringes. One explanation of the name Dobroja is the good land, sculpted by the wind. In lands like these, around the Black Sea, men first tamed horses. Now the turbines stand like cathedrals to man's ability to tame the wild. But who prays at their feet, who praises them, and who is plagued by doubt? Ornithologist Daniel Petrescu questions the need for quite so many turbines, on the main migration route of millions of birds to and from the Danube Delta.
This is a good thing for the nature, but it has to be implemented more environmentally friendly.
Fantanele Kojelak is the biggest onshore wind farm in Europe with 240 giant turbines, owned by the Czech firm CEZ.
We need to wear this gear in order to go up inside the turbines. It takes a little getting used to. Not sure I'd like to do this every day. It's pretty cold down here at the bottom. Can't imagine what it's going to be like up at the top.
It's going to be windy.
It's going to be windy.
It's hard to describe the feeling walking towards them, like an astronaut approaching a space rocket. Will it take me to distant planets or explode on the launch pad?
Okay, just lay back.
Just lay back?
Go.
Yeah.
And like this, and just climb on. Okay.
So now we're going to go up with Alex in the lift, right up to the top. How many meters are we going up?
80 meters.
80 meters.
Yeah.
Even the hum of the rotors sounds like the music of faraway galaxies. Even the earth beneath them seems to vibrate. What is that like for the moles and mice and rabbits among their roots? I'm like an insect in a man-made forest, a fly in the ointment, or a spy in the machine.
So we've arrived?
Yeah.
It feels like we're really high up. I feel like actually I'm in the top of a tree, swaying in the wind. How many more meters up here, Alex?
10 meters, something like
10 meters, okay, good. So I'm just going to put my head out of the hatch for the first time here now. After the stress of getting up here, my fear of heights, it's pretty astonishing to finally arrive at the top and to look out over this landscape towards the Black Sea in front of me and the rolling plains of Dobroja all around. And you've never been up in one of these before?
No, never. It's my first time now. It's impressive. Technically speaking, it's a marvel of engineering, I would say. If you look at the size of this rotor blade, it's fantastic.
And can birds learn to avoid these? Can they get used to their presence here and dodge them?
Maybe, yeah. Everything adapts, and birds survive millions of years, and they have adapted to different situations we cannot even imagine. But at this point in history, in human history, we have to take care of everything alive on this planet, not only us.
Back down safely on dry land, Mihai Balan of the Romanian Wind Energy Association defends these elegant machines.
It's a very good area for wind development. The potential is very good, and we are in a blessed area for energy because we also have the Black Sea and the resources. Also, offshore wind might be a solution for Romania in the future.
Unfortunately for the birds and for the wildlife, this is also the most dense migratory path in Eastern Europe. It should make it more difficult for the investment. Birds fly over and collide. People say, well, how they collide, because this kind of wind, they are turning so slow. But everybody forgets that this is a 100-meter rotor, which spins like a football field, spinning 20 times a minute. So at the tip of the blade, you always have almost 300 kilometers an hour. There is a phenomenon happening in the turbine where the low pressure behind the wing it's gonna suck the lungs out of the little birds and bats, especially bats.
There's this study made in the United States that actually puts wind turbines as the 7th or 8th cause of bird death annually, and I think it's 20 times less than their biggest predator for birds, which are of course cats. Imagine what would happen to the habitat if some fossil fuel power plant would be here instead of this wind park. Nothing is perfect, and we don't see anything in terms of good or bad overall, metaphysically speaking, but certain technologies are better than others in certain aspects, and in terms of impact on wild population, on human life, on birds, wind energy certainly has a benefit compared to other technologies.
This is Adrian's first workday at the wind farm. He's 24 years old and comes from a coal mining community at Petroșani, 600 kilometers away up the Danube. He's left behind a long family tradition deep underground to reach for the sky, here among the wind turbines of Dobroja.
What I'm leaving behind, it's all, first is my family. The place is where I grew up. I don't know, the mountains, because I love to ski. It was a hard decision because I love my family. They support me all the time, and my friends too. I have some couple of friends that cry for me. I cry too. It was a difficult situation for me. I'm alone here. I'm here alone, so
But maybe more people will come from that area here, but you don't know for sure.
I hope so, because I will try to convince everybody that it's better here than to be in our old city.
The coal mines of the Jiu Valley, where Adrian comes from, were once the biggest in Romania. The river ran black with the coal washed in its waters. Now the fish are returning to be caught by men with no jobs as the mines are closed. Sebastian too was invited to retrain for the turbines, but he's not been tempted so far.
For Adrian, let's say it was properly a golden occasion. He's 24 age, he don't have to support the family. For me, it is a good possibility, but in the same way it's sad too, because having a family at home, I had to leave them and go working in other parts. We have to be honest, in 20, 30 years, I don't think that we will see coal mine or coal power station in the world. My father worked here, my both grandfathers worked here. My father-in-law, for example, the father of my wife worked here. It brings emotion, and in the same way, it brings us sadness, watching that something that one time put the food on the table, it doesn't exist no longer.
I'm not planning to go back because in my city, in my area, a lot of young people go to bigger city, bigger country, and to build something. It's difficult to live in that zone. So that's why we just fly from our parents, and that's it. We just try to find a better life.
Everyone I meet on this journey is either a migrant or has been touched by a history of migration, as I am. Like birds, we follow our noses, always in search of home. The rich culture of Dobroja was fostered by the many peoples who washed up or took shelter here. Romanians and Bulgarians, Turks and Russians. These Lipovans settled here 300 years ago. They fled Tsarist Russia in the 18th century to escape religious reforms and found refuge among the Muslims of the Ottoman Empire. Nicolae Ceausescu's brand of national communism did not take kindly to those who kept up minority cultures and languages, even Russian ones. Since democracy returned, they've had less trouble maintaining their traditions, rooted on the muddy shores of the Danube. But freedom has brought new challenges.
So this is your monument to the Lipovan people of this village? Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Deci toată lumea avem câte o cruce.
You all have a cross? Yeah. Okay.
La botez primim câte o cruce, simbolul credinței.
Ei s-au așezat chiar în locul ăsta unde suntem noi aici, au venit cu bărcile din Rusia. Și cu cățelul, și cu purcelul, și cu copiii, și cu tot. Aici au stat. Căutau zona unde puteau să-și desfășoare religia și portul nostru, care este și acum.
La vedere!
Ocupația rușilor lipoveni de atunci era pescuitul.
Like today?
Ca și astăzi, dar astăzi e puțin diferit. Cu pescuitul se ocupă ei mai în vârstă, ei lanții tinerii, cu democrația asta au plecat afară, pe unde se câștigă mai bine.
The older men's beards are part of their faith. They like to row their boats and shun outboard motors. While the new generation, like Mitya, have discovered the delights of a clean chin, their passion for fishing never fades.
I was born here. I was, for example, make it in the boat. My father, he was fisherman. My mother the same. Here I live. Here my heart they bring me every place. Where I was is good. Is good money. Is good life. When I coming home, I take off my clothes, nice clothes, for example. I take my boots, my boat, and everything in the water. If I not feel water to my leg, to my hand, do I not feel and I not catch one fish, do I make food on him? I not feel him home.
Am auzit că aveți 5 băieți.
Boys?
I have 5 boys. 5 boys, yeah. I will bring them all.
Și tradiții frumoase, se vor îndrăgosti de tradiții, vor rămâne, vom combina.
America and Russia? Russia.
England and Russia.
England.
England.
In Anglia.
Я думаю, что Трамп и Путин.
No Trump and Putin. Unfortunately, my country is leaving the European Union, has left. It's a problem for you? No.
For us, personally, no. Dar probabil cei care lucrează.
Cei care lucrează, probabil unii vor cere, am înțeles că vor cere rezidență acolo sau...
For you a problem?
And it's for us a problem. Yes. Yeah, I'm sad.
Why?
I'm crying because I feel European. And Britain is leaving Europe.
Noi stăm aici, nu mai mergem nicăieri.
Poți în Norvegia.
Grandchildren, really, in Norway.
Tațana, Londra, Spania. În toată Europa avem.
The great tide of Christian faith still floods this region. In this village beside the Danube at Dervent, I've come to meet an old friend, Father Atal. His father taught him to swim by throwing him into the deep water. It was the start of a long love affair with the river and with God.
M-am născut pe malurile Dunării și am crescut aici. Când plutești în Dunăre, când înnoți în Dunăre, ești practic între două ape. Apele de sub tine și apele pe care nu le vedem, dar există, norii în cer, în atmosferă. Și trecerea aceasta a apelor necontenite și de-a lungul timpului, de-a lungul vieții mele, m-a făcut să înțeleg că viața repede trece și contează numai ce rămâne. Noi români avem o vorbă, și cred că nu numai românii. Apa trece, pietrele rămân.
Nu, repede, trebuie. Oui, un peu repede.
Hurry up, says Father Andrei, so we rush into something timeless. Outside the ancient chapel, snow muffles all sound. Inside, the spell is cast by the carpets and the candles.
Să devenim noi mai limpezi, ca și Dunărea albastră, să devenim noi lumină și prin lumina noastră să luminăm pe ceilalți. Cât ne stă și nouă putere.
The monks glide through this wintry landscape like crows in their black capes. Atal has lived in the Orthodox monastery at Dervent for 23 years. The monastery itself is young, built in the 1930s, but on an ancient site. While one of the brothers brightened up the snowy cemetery, Atal took me to see the monastery's treasures. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, joked Jesus, knowing full well it all belongs to God.
Dans le Danube.
Dans le Danube. So Father Atal was just explaining that these gold coins from the Roman era were found in or very near the Danube here. They include some from Marcus Aurelius and other Caesars, and they were found just on the island here, La Soirée, close to the monastery here.
Am studiat început psihologia, am avut o viață cum au toți oamenii. Studiind, punându-mi întrebări, uneori găsind răspunsuri, alteori nu. Sunt născut într-o familie al cărui membru superior, tata, a fost crescut în doctrina comunistă. Născut în 48, a ajuns membru de partid comunist. Era activist însărcinat cu propaganda, am avut o educație și ateistă și comunistă. Din partea bunicilor era una creștină, adică măcar formal eram creștin. Undeva pe la 16 ani am simțit nevoia să mă duc să mă spovedesc la preotul care m-a și botezat. Ce s-a întâmplat în mine atunci nu știu, dar știu că am decis să încerc să duc o viață cât mai așezată în duhul creștin ortodox aici.
What did your father think of that decision?
Mi-a spus-o înainte de a muri, pentru că acum 4 ani de zile a decedat. Încă vreo 8 ani de zile așteptat să mă întorc acasă, din Dερβέντ. Apoi s-a convins că sunt hotărât să merg ferm pe această cale.
Some monks, like Father Atal, came to the monastery here early in life, others late. Father Bartolomeu was a car mechanic for 46 years. Now he's the oldest bird in the nest. My last supper in the monastery, breaking the bread. The monks pray many times a day, and you realise after a while that this is real work too. Hard work, like cutting your way through the undergrowth. There's freedom here too, I realised, and an unexpected strength in the solemn repetition of the old rituals. Bright and early, I'm heading for the gate. The river beckons me always on. During the night, the snowplows carved out my escape route. Upstream, there are new people to meet, new dishes to taste. A final gift from the monastery, a packed lunch of river herring, freshly smoked. And this morning, the Danube is more beautiful than ever, like a fish turning from blue to silver in the brilliant sunlight.